Welcome to Prime Time, everybody, and welcome back to Horror Headlines. I'm your host, Hunter Chambliss, and tonight I'm giving you my most anticipated horror movies of 2026. Happy New Year's again, guys. Hope your January is going great. It's been a tough time in 2026 so far. We're only a weekend, but we can do it together. Guys, let's talk about some horror movies that are coming out in 2026, but let's do some housekeeping first. First and foremost, these are not in any particular order. I'm excited for all of these movies individually for one reason or another. I'm not going to go into a lot of details for each of these movies, mostly because some of these movies don't have a serious plot just yet. We have, details about most of them, but there's some that are still under wraps that are still being, filmed. So we're not going to have a lot of discussions about what the movie could be because there's not even trailers for some of these yet. So I am super excited for these 10, but there are also a lot more in 2026 that I'm super excited for. There are so many honorable mentions I could give you guys, but we don't have time. Let's start with, of course, our first movie of 2026 that I'm excited for. Of course, it's Scream 7. Scream 7 is one of my most anticipated movies of 2026 because you guys know me. I'm a huge Scream fan. I love the franchise. This is the franchise that got me into horror and made me the horror lover that I am today. There's something about watching that original movie and the sequels that really feel like home to me, where you can watch them, you can put them on anytime and just enjoy this franchise. Even 5 and 6, which I love. I know a lot of people don't. I don't think there's a bad Scream movie out there, and Scream 7 looks fantastic. I do still have a lot of questions about how Matthew Lillard's Stu Macher character is going to return. How is Roman Bridger going to be incorporated with Scott Foley coming back? David Arquette was killed off in Scream 5, so how is he coming back? And, I have a feeling that with Scott Foley's Roman Bridger and Dewey, I think those deaths are secure. And I think those are going to be AI, but I think Stu is actually alive, and it's going to be his idea to use AI against Sydney, which would make sense as to why David Arquette is coming back and why Scott Foley is coming back. But I feel like Matthew Lillard is going to be the one behind all this. So if you guys don't know what Scream 7 is going to be about, Scream 7 follows Sidney Prescott coming back, but this time Ghostface is not targeting just her, but she's targeting her family and especially her daughter Tatum. So that gets me super excited because Cindy Prescott is a character, especially in like Scream 4, 4 and 5. She doesn't have a reason to be scared. She's been through this. She's fought off Ghostface multiple times. She knows what to expect. This is a great way, and I've always said this is a great way to allow Sidney Prescott to be scared again, but not for herself. Put that fear of this lunatic is going after my daughter. And now we have a really cool story, especially if it's Stu going after somebody who he knows Sydney would love more than anybody, her daughter. And you have that connection with Stu and Tatum, and Sydney naming her daughter Tatum after Rose McGowan's character in the original, and you got so much great working in this world that I'm super excited for. The cast looks great. I am curious about Joe McHale as Sydney's husband. I love Joe McHale. I love Community, one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. But I know some people have this hesitation because he is seen as this comedic jerk that he plays. Like he's Jeff Winger to everybody. So I'm interested to see what he can bring here. I know originally it's supposed to be Patrick Dempsey. I kind of wish they would have kept that just to have this kind of connection with the previous series, but also Kevin Williamson is coming back not only to write, but he's also directing his first time directing a Scream movie in the franchise that he created. super glad to see that the creator is getting a chance to put his vision out there as well. It's also being written by Guy Busick and the crew who did Scream 5 and Scream 6. I love those scripts, so this one has a lot of stuff working for it. So let's see what happens when Scream 7 comes out in theaters. I'm super excited. Let's move on to our next movie. All right, guys, my next movie I'm most anticipated for is Robert Eggers' Werewolf. Robert Eggers is one of my favorite horror directors working today. I think his style and the way he's able to take horror and gothic horror and these, surreal stories and make them grounded, make them beautiful, make them poetic, just make them a beautiful world that he's able to experience. I absolutely love. I loved Nosferatu last year, and to see him take that style, that Nosferatu style, and really give us a really gory and exciting werewolf movie set in medieval times, I am more than excited. I am super hyped to see what Robert Eggers can do with this type of story, a story about a beast versus humanity and what humanity can do in the power of a full moon when the wolf, the beast comes out. And I think Eggers can really experiment with the duality of the beast and the man and not remembering what you did the night before and trying to chain yourself up and try to keep yourself in captivity and just there's so much you can work with here of a man who is broken into two pieces. And I mean, of course, the cast is stacked. You've got Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ralph Emerson, Willem Dafoe, Lily Rose Depp coming back. Like he's worked with so many of these actors, and they always bring their best performances when working with Robert Eggers. So that's another reason I'm super excited. We don't know anything more than what the kind of basic premise will be. We don't know when the trailer is going to come out. This is set to come out in December, so I would say probably around the summertime we'd probably see our first trailer. So I am super excited for this because there is, for me, Robert Eggers hasn't made a bad movie. I know some people did not like The Northman. I thought it was a really good, epic revenge tale. It wasn't horror, but it was that kind of action revenge thriller that I really loved. And I love that Eggers is he found his style. His style is this gothic kind of world building that no one else can do. So that's why Werewolf is another one I'm super excited for. 2026 looks like it's going to be a big year. Let's move on to our next movie that I'm very excited for. All right, guys, this one is coming out in about a week. This one I'm very excited for. 28 years later, The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DaCosta, written by Alex Garland, who I think is a very, very great director and a really, really great writer. This is the sequel to last year's 28 Years Later. I just watched this one a few days ago for the first time. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved the world building, the characters, the action, the monsters, the talk of duality of living in a post-apocalyptic world for so long and the rules that they set up of going into the forest or staying on land and the high tides and just so much talk about death and love and there's so much you can delve deep into the original film with that this one gets me very excited because the synopsis is as Spike is introduced into the Jimmy Crystal gang on the mainland, Dr. Kelson makes a discovery that could alter the world. Dr. Kelson played greatly by Ray Fiennes, who's just a brilliant actor in general. And now you have him in this crazy doctor role that is he good? Is he evil? I still don't know how to feel about Dr. Kelson. I know that he's supposed to be portrayed as a good guy, and I feel that, especially with his talk with Spike in the movie. I think that really calmed a lot of people's nerves. But what's going to happen when he goes against the infected? What were those bodies in 28 years later? So this gets me so excited for the answers. I also love Nia DaCosta as a director. I think her 2021 Candyman movie was excellent. I One reason I loved it is because it had a point, it had a message, but it wasn't scared to hide the message. The message was right in your face. And sometimes that works for me. That works when a director knows what they want to say and they just say it to the audience. I know some people can see that as preachy. I see it as tell your truth, tell your story, and we'll go and ride with you. And I cannot wait to see what Nia DaCosta can bring in this world where it's, you know, the infected versus the humanity. And Alex Garland does a really good job at writing human dialogue as well. I heard in an interview that Nia DaCosta said that her only input in the script was that she wanted more infected, and that absolutely makes me happy because as much as I love 28 years later, we did not get a lot of infected battles, and the ones we did get were very good, and I want to see more of those. So 28 years later, the Bone Temple comes out in 1 week, and I will be there, and then you'll have a review right here on Welcome to Prime Time. So let's move on to my next movie. All right, guys. This is one that when I heard it was coming out and who was involved, I was super excited for. This is Clayface. I absolutely loved James Gunn's start to the DCU. I love Superman. I think that movie is incredible. I think that movie is so hopeful. But this, you have Mike Flanagan writing the script. You have it being more of a horror movie, a monster movie, a blob, style horror movie about someone who can shape change into different people and not knowing if he's hero or villain. Like, just listen to the synopsis on IMDb: a shape-shifting creature made of a magical clay haunts Gotham City, alternating between a villain and allies of Batman. So my question is, are we going to get the introduction of Batman and Clayface? If we do, who is going to be? We also have James Watkins directing this, who did Speak No Evil in 2024, the remake with James McAvoy. I love that movie. I love the original movie. I just love everything that's coming together in this Clayface movie. It's a standalone ish movie, so you don't have to worry about muddling up a universe with connectedness. You have a horror team that works really well together. Mike Flanagan knows how to write really interesting and really creative stories. James Watkins is incredible at building tension on screen, and you have just this setting of Gotham City and this kind of dark aesthetic, adding in a little mystical element because of the clay face and how he's able to morph into people and make you believe he's somebody else. Those are really good movies. This could be DC's version of the Thing, where you don't know who's infected, you don't know who Clayface could be, and that's what's super scary about it, is that he could be anybody. So Clayface is high up on my list, and I hope you guys let me know in the comments below what you guys think about Clayface. Let's move on to our next movie. All right, guys. As you can see right here, my next most anticipated movie of this year is Evil Dead Burn, directed by Sebastian Vanek. I know I butchered that last name, so I apologize. He directed Infested, which is a very good, very creepy spider film. We do not know the plot of this movie, but I do know it's a new Evil Dead movie. I do know that Sebastian has said in interviews that he wants this to be gory and he wants it to go back to how scary the Evil Dead franchise is, because 2013's was scary, but it was more gory. but it had a great heart connection. Evil Dead Rise was a great family connection movie where it dealt with more of the family drama. And these are not bad things, these are absolutely positives. But I want a mean Evil Dead movie. I want, harkening back to the original, give me the original, the down and dirty Evil Dead film that I think a lot of us fans are looking for. And I know that if anyone can do it, it's Sebastian. He can do a very mean, but also give us really good character development. Because if you look at Infested, Infested is not just a spider movie, it's a movie about family, a brother and a sister. And that's what's really cool about the Evil Dead franchise, is that you can tell these great individual stories about family or addiction or you know, going against your loved ones, or just so many topics in the Evil Dead franchise. But you don't have to have it connected to this whole massive universe. Each film feels, I would say the first three are one connected movie, and the rest of them are just set in the same universe. And that's really good because not only does it give directors more freedom to do more with the franchise and play in that sandbox, it gives new directors an opportunity to get a massive IP under their name, and then you could bounce that off of somebody else. I think uh, giving it to Sam Raimi, looking for new and upcoming directors instead of established names, I think is very smart, because now you can set up the future by giving them an IP to work with. So Evil Dead Burn is coming out this year. Cannot wait to see the first trailer. So let's move on to our next movie. Speaking of Sam Raimi himself, we have his upcoming return to horror with Send Help. I am super excited for this one. As you guys know, I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan. So seeing him return to horror after what I thought was a really fun Sam Raimi comic book movie in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, seeing him return to horror is super interesting. And this is a really interesting story. The plot is two colleagues become stranded on a desert island, the only survivors of a plane crash. On the island, they must overcome past grievances and work together to survive, but ultimately, it's a battle of wills and wits to make it out alive. So, one, I love stories like that. You guys know I've always said this, and I will continue to say this. I love horror movies that take place in one location. I think what you're forced to do as a writer when you stick yourself into one or maybe two small locations is you have to make it about the dialogue, and you have to make us as an audience care about your characters, because if we don't, then we're stuck in this movie people we don't care about in one location where they're mostly going to be the same. They're going to be the only characters on the screen. So you put it on a deserted island with colleagues who already have a tension and already have a past. What's going to happen there, especially with some of the tags of this movie on IMDb include monster horror. So are there monsters on this island? Just there's so many questions that gets me super excited for this movie. Not only just Sam Raimi returning to horror, but the idea of being stuck on a desert island. You have no help. You have nobody to rescue you. So you have to rely on yourselves. And what happens when you can't get past those grievances? What happens when you can't get past these hurdles that you guys had back on land? So Sam Raimi keeping it very contained, keeping it very one location is very Sam Raimi, because that's what he did with Evil Dead. The Evil Dead movie is one location, a cabin in the woods. There are deadites on there, and you're dealing with characters and the supernatural elements. So Send help. I cannot wait for this movie. The cast is great. Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Connell. I'm sorry, Dylan O'Brien. I don't know why I said Dylan O'Connell. I'll cut this out. 2, 1. Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien are coming back, but also Bruce Campbell in the cast. So that, of course, his good old buddy Bruce Campbell working with him. So I'm super excited for this movie, guys. Let's move on to our next movie. Lee Cronin, the director of Evil Dead Rise, is coming back to horror for his adaptation of The Mummy, the classic Universal monster movie with Atomic Monster and Blumhouse as production studios, as you guys see at the bottom. The plot of this movie is the young daughter of a journalist disappears into the desert without a trace. 8 years later, the broken family is shocked when she's returned to them, as what should be a joyful reunion turns into a living nightmare. So that's the summary of Lee Cronin's The Mummy. And what I was talking about during the Evil Dead Burn segment is what Lee Cronin did very well in Evil Dead Rise, which is made us care about this family and their dynamic and put us in a situation where we root for the mother in Evil Dead Rise to fight the Deadite, to fight that demon inside of her. And I think taking that element of a family broken apart and then having their disappeared daughter come back to her, come back to the family, and what happened to her and what caused this, and just the unraveling of this mystery of the mummy gets me super excited. Not only that, but we have Brendan Fraser coming back for a new mummy movie based on the 90s one. So we're getting a lot of stuff in the realm of the Universal Classic monster movies. That gets me super excited because I've been on a binge of those lately as well. Frankenstein this last year was fantastic, so I love seeing these mythical stories still being able to entice audiences, and I cannot wait to see Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I think the cast also is stacked. You have Jack Reiner, who was the boyfriend in Midsommar. I think he is such a great actor, and I think he is a really good person to have lead this film. So, guys, let's move on to our next movie. But I'm super excited for Lee Cronin's The Mummy. All right, guys, our next movie is one that I didn't know about until I saw the trailer just a few days ago, and this is called They Will Kill You. It stars Zazie Beetz, Tom Felton, Heather Graham, Patricia Arquette, just so many, just such a packed cast. And the description is a woman takes a job as a housekeeper in New York City's high rise, unaware of the building's history of disappearances. So she soon realizes the community is shrouded in mystery. So when I saw this trailer, I immediately thought, oh, this is Ready or Not, and this is the best way to do it. This is Ready, as someone in the comments of the video said, this is Ready or Not meets Your Next. And I love that idea. I love that you take this person who knows how to fight, knows how to kill from a past experience, and you bring them into a world where they're being hunted, and now they're turning it around on the hunters and becoming the hunted. I love that idea, and I love Zazie Beetz. I think she's such a great actress. This movie looks so fun. It looks so outrageous. It looks so it looks so funny. It's a dark horror comedy. So I'm ready to laugh. I'm ready to be wowed by the action set pieces. I'm ready to just feel this intensity that Ready or Not gave me. So They Will Kill You is high up there on my list, especially after watching the trailer. Um, yeah, I'm super excited for this movie. March 27th, one day before my birthday, I will see this in theaters. So I hope you guys go check this out and support lesser known horror movies. So let's move on to our next movie. All right, guys. So I didn't know what poster to pick because there is an official poster for this movie. But when I heard the premise of this movie, I had to put it on this list. It's called Other Mommy, and the description is Bella, an 8-year-old girl living in a home with marital problems, confronts a sinister entity that comes out of her closet. The presence, whom she calls Other Mommy, becomes increasingly threatening to her and her family. This is directed by Rob Savage, who gave us The Boogeyman, which I thought was a very underrated hit. I love that movie. I think that movie deals with a lot of really cool issues. So he's back. You have Jessica Chastain in the lead with writers Nathan Ellerston and Josh Mellerman, who wrote the book for Bird Box. The premise just sounds amazing. I love when supernatural movies are able to use this dark entity. I'm not really a fan of ghost stories or ghost movies in particular, but when done right, they can hook. Like I think the Babadook is such a great scary supernatural film that deals with an entity, but it's also just about a family and the idea of kids creating this entity because they're in a situation they don't understand. And like, do they create the entity? Does the entity latch on to them? Rob Savage does a great job at putting us in the aspects of his characters. And I cannot wait to see what he does with Other Mommy. Jessica Chastain is incredible as an actress, so I'm super excited that she's on for this one. So we don't know a lot about it. I do not know when we're going to get a trailer for it. Hopefully soon, because the movie does come out in March. No, in May. I'm sorry, in May. So let's get ready for another supernatural element movie from Rob Savage. Let's move on to our final movie that we're going to discuss. And last but certainly not least, we have Resident Evil, directed by Zach Cregers, who just gave us Weapons last year, my number two horror movie of last year. And also directed Barbarian, which was in my top 10 of 2023 as well. I am super excited. One, the Resident Evil franchise hasn't had a proper movie adaptation that has been good, and I hope Zach Cregers dives into what Evil is, which is it's a horror game. It's a horror survival game. Resident Evil in the past movies tried to make these big action set pieces. They didn't work for me. They definitely have their fans, but Zach Cregger knows how to create great tension in not only his directing but his writing, and the way he's able to unravel a mystery is really, really well done. So bringing that horror element to Resident Evil is exactly what we need. The premise is Resident Evil follows a hapless carrier tasked with delivering a package to a remote hospital. He soon finds himself caught in the middle of an outbreak and must fight through hordes of mutilated creatures to survive. So, going back to the survival horror of Resident Evil that I absolutely love. I'm just a fan of Zach Cregger, and like I said at the end of in my review for Weapons, whatever Zach Cregger does next, I will be first in line to see. I just think this guy has such a future when it comes to horror. He's 2 for 2 for me, and if he knocks us out of the park, it'll be 3 for 3, and he will be up there with the Jordan Peels and stuff for me, with people who are the best horror directors working today. So, guys, that is all 10 of my most anticipated movies of 2026. There's so many more I could get into. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe to Welcome to Prime Time. Let me know what your favorite your most anticipated movies of 2026 is in the horror realm. Down below, let's have a great discussion. And remember, stay scared.